Imagine finally, like, solving the puzzle of your partner.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You've completely decoded their every move. You know exactly why they do what they do, and you can predict their reactions with perfect accuracy.
It sounds great in theory.
Right. It feels like this massive victory. But what if that exact moment, the moment you feel you completely and perfectly understand someone, is actually the exact moment you destroy the relationship?
This is a very heavy thought to start with.
It really is. Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive, where we are looking at a stack of incredibly fascinating philosophical notes. You shared some profound source material with us today, drawing from the concepts of reflective humanism, and this one piece titled, let me check, Why Must We Accept What Cannot Be Fully Understood?
Yeah, that's the one. It's a fascinating text.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to explore these sources, look at what the texts call untranslatable points, and dive into the hidden mechanisms of artificial intelligence, actually, and then examine the ethics of keeping our relationships gracefully open. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to start, we really crave that victory of perfect understanding because living with uncertainty requires just immense cognitive energy.
Oh, for sure. It's exhausting.
Exactly. When you map someone's behavior to a clear reason, your brain just gets to relax. Understanding, at least in that highly functional sense, acts as a stabilizing device. It reduces the psychological friction of the unknown.
That makes perfect sense from like a survival standpoint. We naturally follow this very linear structure just to save energy.
Oh, we do.
Like we observe an action, we infer a reason for that action, and then we use that to create this mental image of the person, and then boom, we get the satisfying feeling of comprehension.
Yeah, the case is closed.
Right. I was thinking about it like boxing up items for storage. You look at an object, figure out what category it belongs in, put it in the kitchen supplies box, tape it shut, label it with a Sharpie, and put it on a shelf.
It's neat. It's tidy.
Exactly. And you don't have to spend cognitive load thinking about it anymore. But realistically, I mean, don't we need these kinds of judgments just to get through the day? If we constantly reevaluated everyone, we'd be completely paralyzed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Judgments are totally necessary. The sources, however, they draw a really vital distinction here between a judgment and a fixation.
Okay, what's the difference?
So a judgment is just a provisional response to a present situation. It is observing the environment and saying, this is how this person appears to be acting right now under these specific pressures.
So it's temporary.
Exactly. But a fixation occurs when you take that isolated action and you use it to explain the whole person permanently.
Ah, I see. So taking the Sharpie and writing, this is who they are permanently on the box, regardless of what they might do tomorrow.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is the physical consequence of that labeling. When your brain concludes that it has successfully categorized someone, all other possibilities for that person just vanish from your cognitive view.
Wow.
Yeah, the completion of your understanding is actually the termination of your observation. You just stop looking at them.
That's a really difficult pill to swallow. It essentially means that when we feel most confident about knowing someone, we're often just interacting with a fixed mental avatar we built of them, right?
Right. Not the living, breathing human in front of us.
Yeah, and when they act in a way that doesn't align with our little avatar, we don't see it as complexity. We just see it as like an error on their part.
You think they're acting out of character?
Exactly. But this brings up a logical question, and I want to just pose a hypothesis on behalf of the listener here. If boxing people into these fixed explanations is a failure to observe them, couldn't we solve this by simply communicating better?
Just explaining ourselves more clearly.
Yeah, like if we had a perfect vocabulary and infinite patience, couldn't we completely share our inner worlds and just eliminate that friction?
It is a really tempting thought. The idea that with enough precise words, we could achieve perfect synchrony with another mind. But the sources introduce a concept that fundamentally shatters that hope.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called the untranslatable point.
The untranslatable point. Okay, what is that?
An untranslatable point is not a lack of effort, nor is it missing information that can be fixed with, a longer explanation. It is a structural reality of existing as separate biological and historical entities.
Structural reality, so it's baked into us.
Exactly. The text lays out a sort of equation for this. It goes, different lived experiences multiplied by different physical bodies, multiplied by different timelines.
Equals
a phase difference that cannot be fully shared.
a phase difference. It's almost like two clocks wound at entirely different tensions,
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
Like, over time, the gap between their ticking just grows. And
Mhm.
what noon feels like to one system is completely out of sync with the other, no matter how much they try to synchronize their faces.
That is a perfect mechanical representation of the concept. The sources actually use an incredibly grounded example to illustrate this phase difference, and it's just the word fear.
Okay, fear.
Right. Imagine two people sitting across from each other and they both say the exact same phrase, I'm scared. On paper, it looks like perfect translation.
They use the exact same words.
Exactly. But the internal reality is radically different.
Right, because for one person, fear might mean a completely somatic response, like their nervous system shutting down and their body physically freezing up.
Yes. And for the other person, fear might be a traumatic past memory violently intruding on the present moment.
Or, for a third person, fear could be the intellectual dread of a future event that hasn't even happened yet.
Exactly. Yeah. For a fourth, it's the terror of having no physical escape route in the room. Or for a fifth, it's the quiet, crushing anxiety of knowing they are about to tell the truth and just won't be believed.
Man, that's so heavy. But it's true. So does this mean people can never truly understand one another? Are we all just profoundly alone?
Not at all. Language creates a temporary point of contact. It allows those two people to acknowledge each other's experience in that specific moment.
But it doesn't transport the actual feeling.
Right. Language cannot transport the raw experience itself. It can't teleport the physical freezing sensation or the intrusive memory from one nervous system to another.
Wow, okay.
But the inability to become identical does not mean contact is impossible. The texts emphasize that culture, the physical body, chronic pain, memory, silence, these all contain elements that fundamentally resist being digitized into transferable data.
So if this friction is a permanent structural reality, human nature probably just tries to force conformity, right? Like, when the friction becomes uncomfortable, we demand the other person change to fit our narrative, so our clocks sync up again.
That is the default defense mechanism. The texts label this closed understanding.
Closed understanding.
In a closed framework, the other person's words pass through our personal interpretive filter. They become a completed explanation, and then observation just shuts down.
So what happens when they act out of character in that framework?
When anomalies happen, say the person contradicts themselves or just goes silent, a closed understanding reads that contradiction as insincerity. Silence is instantly weaponized as either quiet agreement or aggressive rejection.
Yeah.
We force their complex reality into a legible format.
Which means we're essentially dragging the other person into our world rather than stepping into theirs.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for us? Like, how do we actually restructure our approach? How do we build relationships that can tolerate that untranslatable point without forcing conformity?
Well, the alternative framework is open understanding. And that leads to what the texts call the ethics of distance.
Ethics of distance. That sounds a bit cold, honestly.
I know we are heavily conditioned to view distance in a relationship as a sign of decay,
Yeah.
right? Like a warning that ties are fraying. But in reflective humanism, distance is an ethical necessity.
How so?
It is a protective margin that shields the other person from the crushing weight of your interpretations.
Oh, wow. Giving someone a protective margin implies we have to tolerate our own discomfort with not knowing, though. We have to just sit with the anxiety of them being a mystery.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, demanding perfect synchronization in a relationship, like insisting that your partner always derives the exact same meaning from an event or changes at the exact same speed you do, it actually weaponizes natural human differences.
Because friction is uncomfortable.
Right. And because it's uncomfortable, systems try to eliminate it by forcing one of three outcomes. Someone is pressured into staying silent, someone shrinks their personality to be easily explainable, or the relationship fractures entirely.
And the ethics of distance is the alternative.
Yes, it offers a fourth option: to approach without possessing and to step back without abandoning. You allow the untranslatable point to exist as a permanent trace of two different beings remaining connected while remaining distinct.
That is really beautiful. But if we scale this up, our intolerance for that discomfort isn't just a personal failing. We've structured modern civilization around eliminating the untranslatable point.
We really have.
Like, reading through these notes, it becomes so obvious that we have built massive translation devices to strip away human friction. Systems classify people into demographics. Science strictly defines phenomena.
Right. Administrative bureaucracies turn complex lives into a rigid set of requirements.
Exactly. And the market forces every subjective value into an objective price tag. These are all societal-level versions of that Sharpie marker labeling the storage box.
And while those systemic classifications are, necessary for a massive society to function, there is a severe human cost.
Which is what?
Whatever cannot be neatly classified by the system is rendered completely invisible. People who exist on the boundaries of different cultural identities, undefined physical ailments that lack a billable diagnostic code, the informal emotional labor of keeping a family running that produces no economic metric, these things just fall off the map.
And those unclassifiable realities don't disappear just because the institution's paperwork can't capture them.
No, the friction has to go somewhere. The unclassifiable complexity is absorbed by the individuals on the ground.
Like who?
It is absorbed by the patience of a frontline healthcare worker bending the rules to help a patient, or by a family member's quiet exhaustion, by sheer personal endurance. The text actually uses a striking phrase for this phenomenon.
What's the phrase?
When institutions fail to accommodate untranslatable points, the untranslated reality causes wear and tear on the membrane of life.
Wear and tear on the membrane of life. That wear and tear is basically the invisible tax of a highly categorized society.
It is.
But our tools to manage this categorization are rapidly evolving. Here's where it gets really interesting. Artificial intelligence seems like the ultimate way to process this messy, unclassifiable human data, right? It promises to organize the chaos.
AI is the most powerful translation device ever conceived, which is precisely why the sources issue a massive warning about its application.
Oh, warning. Why?
The danger lies fundamentally in AI's mathematical design and its resulting fluency. Large language models operate by processing vast amounts of fragmented, contradictory human data and mapping it into a vector space.
Right, so when you ask it a question, it just predicts the most statistically probable sequence of words to follow.
Exactly.
So by its very mathematical nature, it is averaging out the anomalies. It is scraping away the untranslatable points to synthesize a confident, middle-of-the-road answer.
Precisely. It is designed to erase the outliers. When an AI generates a response, it bridges gaps, supplies assumed context, and gives sharp outlines to concepts that were previously vague.
And because it sounds so good, we trust it.
That's the trap. Because the resulting text is structurally perfect and grammatically flawless, it creates a highly dangerous feeling of completed understanding. The fluency of the output masks the probabilistic uncertainty of the input.
Wow, so a synthesized guess suddenly reads as an absolute objective fact.
Yes. AI accelerates the trap of fixation because it gives us the satisfying feeling of case closed without any of the human friction.
If the default function of AI is to act as this neat little answer machine that paves over ambiguity, how should we be utilizing it instead?
Well, the text proposed that AI should not act as an elimination engine for untranslatable points. Rather, it should act as an atmospheric health scan.
An atmospheric health scan.
Yeah, it should be used to illuminate the boundary between what can be definitively known and what must remain open.
So instead of giving one final answer,
right? Instead of generating a final verdict, AI could be structured to highlight where context is missing, where multiple conflicting interpretations still live, and what elements can only truly be understood by a human experiencing them.
it should observe the environment of our data without forcing a rigid conclusion upon it.
Exactly.
But if our ultimate technology, artificial intelligence, cannot solve this friction without mathematically erasing our humanity, then the solution isn't technological at all.
No, it's not.
It has to be a fundamental change in how we process reality and each other. Which brings us to the core philosophical framework driving these sources, reflective humanism.
Yes, reflective humanism.
This isn't just an abstract theory, it's basically an operating system for living alongside the unknown.
It really is. Reflective humanism redefines our concept of truth. It argues that truth is not a fixed destination you eventually arrive at, but rather a continuous trajectory.
Okay, a trajectory.
And within this framework, the texts identify two distinct ways that meaning changes or generates in our lives. The first is discontinuous generation.
It's discontinuous. What does that look like?
This occurs when there are steep phase differences, like sharp, sudden mismatches between our fixed expectations and actual reality. When reality collides with our rigid mental boxes, it forces a painful, abrupt update to our worldview, which the texts call transparent pain.
Transparent pain. Okay, so the alternative to that painful collision is continuous generation, right?
Yes.
This is the gentle gradient of change that happens when we deliberately keep our questions open. It allows for this spiral-like growth where we revisit the same ideas and the same people, but always from a slightly more evolved, higher perspective.
Exactly.
But this sounds highly abstract. How does a person actually experience moving through this continuous generation in daily life? The sources mention three specific states of interference: love, gratitude, and spiral. Are these like sequential steps we are supposed to follow?
Think of them as an active mechanical sequence of engagement rather than a glossary of philosophical terms. Love is the starting condition. In reflective humanism, love is not an emotion. It is the 0 point. It is the pure probability of existing in a shared space with someone without destroying their boundaries.
It's the shared silence.
Yes. And gratitude is the momentum. It is not about extracting value from the other person. It is acknowledging the friction, a quiet nod to the fact that you intersected with another complex universe.
And the spiral.
The spiral is the resulting trajectory of that interaction.
Okay, let me try to ground this in a highly relatable scenario for you listening. Let's say you are in an argument with your spouse, and they do something entirely out of character.
Okay, classic situation.
The closed understanding reflex is to force an apology, to demand they explain themselves immediately so your worldview is validated and the tension drops.
Right, you want the box tape shut again.
Exactly. But if you apply this new mechanism, the love state is choosing to just stay in the room. It's sitting in the silence and letting them be a mystery without demanding an immediate resolution.
Yes.
And then the gratitude state is the realization that their resistance is actually proof that they are an independent, complex being, not just an extension of your own ego.
Beautifully put.
And the spiral is waking up the next day, realizing the relationship has grown slightly deeper, specifically because you didn't force a violent collision of perspectives.
This raises an important question, though. How do we build a world based on this gentle gradient of observation, rather than a world based on sharp, painful evaluations?
That's the ultimate challenge, isn't it?
It is. It requires a profound shift in how we value silence. We have to stop viewing silence as a void where communication failed and start viewing it as the protected container that keeps the untranslatable points safe.
Wow. So, to synthesize everything we've dived into today for you listening, true understanding isn't about solving the mystery of another person. Whether you're dealing with a spouse, a friend, a sprawling institutional bureaucracy, or a generative AI, relationships survive and thrive, not because everything is finally perfectly understood. They survive because what remains unknown hasn't been systematically erased or excluded.
They survive because we consciously leave room for the phase difference.
So the next time you feel that sudden spike of frustration because you just can't, figure someone out, or they do something that totally breaks the mental box you put them in, take a breath.
Lean into it.
Yeah, that frustration might actually be the healthiest part of your connection. It's the untranslatable point asserting itself. It's the friction, keeping your observation alive, reminding you that they are a real changing person and not just a predictable avatar in your head. I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to explore on your own today. If demanding to know why someone does something is often just a sneaky way of trying to control them or make them predictable or possess them, is the ultimate expression of love actually the complete surrender of our investigative reflex? What would happen if, just for one day, you simply let the people in your life be entirely inexplicable and chose to love them exactly at the boundary of your own confusion? Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive. Keep your observations open, leave a little room for the unknown, and we will catch you next time.